I think from the meeting today, I had a feeling you had a lot of bias, so to say. Referring to the first question, how much does it cost to update the data set? And there's very clear interest from the working group or the task force on housing in DG Regio. You had demand from DG ECFIN, which was very interested. He has probably another perspective than DG Regio. He probably might be more concerned about how this can affect the financial situation and productivity. And then, of course, you had the man from IEB who was also interested, and he is sort of working for an organization which sort of lends money. So it's obviously a demand for information from several institutions. And I also think that, I don't know how there are many countries, how much they know about their own housing markets, but this can also inform about housing policies at national level and regional level. So I think that's so quite interesting too.
I start with the data side. The question is what the difference is in the sales and rental market. What is the size of apartments that's being looked at? With our data, we are able to show what market segments is going off the market fastest, because we scrap in our project on a weekly basis. So we know ultimately over the last year of 52 weeks, which type of apartments, houses and flats have been just listed for 1 week or even 3 days. So we know that it is going offline very fast. So this is the type of market that is the most active. So we are able to differentiate the different market activities. I think this is really important for local policymakers who want to plan for the future and create a prognosis of what type of housing is needed and where, but also for engaging across local administrations in understanding their functional relations in the housing market, because of course we know the sizes in the different agglomeration areas needed. On the regional and national level, it differs very much. One of the things is that we look into energy renovation policies in one of our case studies in the Baltic states. And it is important to understand that the moment you invest in the housing market and you raise the quality of the building, you might push people out that are currently living in those buildings. So understanding the potential negative impacts of housing policies and alleviate them already in the design of the policy is something that can be regionally and nationally done and really brought into the game. And I hope that with our analysis from the Baltic states, we were able to show that really the design of the policy instrument of energy renovation is important, and the way that budget is handed out. Maybe one other example. We know very well that housing markets go through cycles. And of course, there might be a housing crisis that is not there once the supply has caught up with the demand. However, what we see right now is that this is a very long cycle where we have less supply than demand. So identifying the competing goals of creating more housing, while at the same time having compaction policies continue, while adhering to other environmental goals, is a really crucial setting to take into account on a local level. National policies can really help in creating frameworks for this and help also for policy mobility processes to go on, have an exchange of best practices across European agglomerations, but also to not just create only funds that are going towards creating more and raise the quality of the existing houses in the urban areas, but also understand that regionally, for some regions, it's challenging that we have underdynamic markets. We have shrinking regions, we have regions where there's a lot of vacancies which are not economically growing, and a housing stock that is not taken up, where it's financially not interesting for anyone to invest into renovating the housing stock. We have a detrimental cycle continuing as well, which leads to many regions that are already considered to be left behind to even have no incentive for anyone to move there because of the way that the housing stock is at the moment. So understanding the diversity of reacting to the crisis in cities, while at the same time understanding that the demands in the suburban areas and the rural areas that are shrinking or even that are growing are very different. So any policy instrument at the national level needs to accommodate different regional demands.
In my work, it's very interesting because I am working in the housing observatory in Luxembourg, and we are preparing now a trans-border housing observatory, also with a Interreg program, and that's why I think your work is especially interesting us because you are covering all Europe. We are trying to cover the trans-border area. We said this is a metropolitan functional area, a trans-border metropolitan functional area from Luxembourg. And this is what could be the future also for next work by ESPON, to see how these functional areas are working on the housing side. And because the price effect of an urban center or capital like Luxembourg or Vienna has an effect on all the area, on the trans-border area. Sometimes in Luxembourg it's the case because it's a little country, but this price has an effect of the residential mobility of the people. Some people cannot afford housing in the cities themselves. They have to go 20, 30, 50 kilometers from the city to find a price who they can find affordable housing. This is the reality. And this perhaps this could be a second stage if the data that ESPON are producing now through this project could be used also for other purposes, but also for other policy to understand more what's happened on the housing market and what is the impact of the housing market of the people, on the flows and the streamings on the people. Yeah.
Housing since last year, since 2024, is a key priority for the European Investment Bank, and we created a task force within the EIB. We started a consultation process with a number of stakeholders across the EU and sector organizations, and we referred a lot to the ESPON study because in our discussions it really provided a concise snapshot of the issues at stakes. Not just house prices, but also an overview of the policy context, but also the drivers, which are the root causes of most housing issues across the EU. And at the moment, we're discussing with the team on how to perhaps merge our databases on house prices and a municipal survey with the work that the ESPON team has done.
So the way Housing Europe works is we have a constant conversation with our members all over Europe. So they're federations of public, social, cooperative housing providers. And we work with them so that then we can be a useful interlocutor for European institutions. So we can work based on that local knowledge and those local problems. We can come up with ways to improve the EU housing framework when it comes to the sector. So we look at better regulation, better finance, and better information. So basically, what we can do with the ESPON results is actually back up a lot of the input we get from local level with actual data, with facts in a way. So I think this is really going to be useful to reinforce our work and make us more useful counterparts also for the European institutions as they try to grapple with this really wicked problem that is the housing crisis.